In 2019, Prime Minister Modi made a bold promise. India would become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. It was an audacious goal. India's GDP at the time was $2.7 trillion. That meant nearly doubling the economy in 6 years. To put that in context, that's faster growth than any large economy has ever achieved. It meant India would surpass the UK, France, and become the world's third largest economy behind only the US and China. The plan was simple: build infrastructure, massive amounts of it, new highways, new ports, new airports, new power plants, connect every village, modernize every city, create the physical foundation for rapid economic growth. Here's what Modi promised by 2025. 100 smart cities with world-class infrastructure, 83,000 kilometers of new highways, 100 new airports, universal electricity access, metro systems in 50 cities, high-speed rail connecting major cities. It's 2024. Let's see how that's going. India's GDP is about $3.7 trillion, not $5 trillion, not even close. The target has been quietly pushed back to 2027, then 2028, and now 2030. The Smart Cities program? Most are incomplete or failed. The highways? Delayed. The airports? Some built, many behind schedule. High-speed rail? The flagship Mumbai-Ahmedabad project was supposed to open in 2022. Now it's projected for 2028, maybe. Welcome to India's infrastructure trap, where ambitious plans meet brutal reality, where every project is announced with fanfare and delivered years late, over budget, or not at all. Today we're going to examine why India can't build infrastructure despite spending billions trying. We'll look at the cost of delays, the corruption problem, the land acquisition nightmare, the regulatory maze, and the financial black hole of infrastructure debt. This isn't about politics. This is about math, engineering, and economic reality. And the reality is, India is stuck, and being stuck is killing its economic potential. Buckle up. We're about to see how the world's most populous democracy is being strangled by the infrastructure it can't build. 1. The infrastructure gap that costs billions daily. Let's start with the scale of the problem. India doesn't just need more infrastructure. It needs to catch up on decades of underinvestment while also building for future growth. Here are some numbers that should shock you. India has 6.2 million kilometers of roads. That sounds like a lot, but only 3% are national highways. The rest are state highways and rural roads, many in terrible condition. The World Bank estimates that bad roads cost India 3 to 5% of GDP annually. That's $100 to $185 billion per year in wasted fuel, vehicle damage, lost productivity, and accidents. For context, India's entire defense budget is about $75 billion. Bad roads cost more than the military. Let's talk about ports. India has a 7,500-kilometer coastline with 12 major ports. Those ports handle about 95% of India's trade by volume. The average turnaround time at an Indian port is 3 to 4 days. At Singapore, it's less than 1 day. At Shanghai, it's about 1 day. Every extra day a ship sits in port costs money. For Indian exporters, this makes them less competitive globally. The World Bank estimates port inefficiency costs India about 2% of GDP annually. That's another $75 billion wasted. Power. India has chronic electricity problems. Yes, the government claims 99% electrification. But electrification doesn't mean reliable power. Power outages are common across India. Businesses run on backup generators. Factories lose production. The cost of unreliable power is estimated at 1 to 2% of GDP. That's $37 to $75 billion. Water infrastructure. India's cities are running out of water. Chennai ran completely dry in 2019. Bangalore, India's tech capital, faces regular water crises. Delhi's water infrastructure loses 40% of supply to leaks. Agricultural productivity is constrained by lack of irrigation. Only 48% of farmland is irrigated. The rest depends on monsoons, which are increasingly unreliable due to climate change. Add it all up: bad roads, inefficient ports, unreliable power, inadequate water infrastructure. The total economic cost is estimated at 7 to 10% of GDP annually. That's $260 to $370 billion per year, every year, just from infrastructure that doesn't work properly. To hit that $5 trillion target, India needed to grow at about 12% per year from 2019 to 2025. But infrastructure problems were shaving 7 to 10% off potential growth. The math doesn't work. You can't grow at 12% when infrastructure is holding you back by 7 to 10%. 2. The announcement delivery gap. Here's a pattern you'll notice with Indian infrastructure: spectacular announcements, disappointing delivery. Let's take the flagship example, the Smart Cities mission. In 2015, the government announced 100 smart cities would be built across India. These would have world-class infrastructure, efficient public transport, clean energy, smart governance. The budget, 48,000 crore rupees, about $6 billion over 5 years. That's $60 million per city. For reference, building a single metro line in Bangalore cost more than that. So, from the start, the budget was inadequate, but let's see what happened anyway. By 2023, 8 years after launch, how many smart cities were completed? 0. Not one single city can be called complete. Some projects were completed, some LED streetlights here, some CCTV cameras there, maybe a command and control center. But actual comprehensive urban transformation? None. The government changed the definition of success from building 100 smart cities to completing projects in 100 cities. Notice the subtle difference? Now any completed project in a designated city counts as progress. This is the pattern. Ambitious announcement, inadequate budget, extended timeline, redefined success criteria. Another example, the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. Announced in 2008, it was supposed to be completed by 2019, then 2020, then 2023, now projected for 2025. The Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail, announced in 2015, was supposed to open in 2022, then 2023, now 2028 maybe. The project is 6 years behind schedule and counting. Why? Because India consistently underestimates time required for land acquisition, environmental clearances, legal challenges, actual construction time, cost overruns. Every major infrastructure project in India follows the same trajectory. 1. Grand announcement with optimistic timeline. 2. Delays in land acquisition, 2-5 years typically. 3. Environmental and legal challenges, 1-3 years. 4. Construction starts late and proceeds slowly. 5. Cost overruns force budget revision. 6. Project either gets scaled down or takes twice as long as planned. The National Highway Authority of India set a target to build 40 kilometers of highways per day. In reality, they average about 28 kilometers per day. And even that number is disputed, with many highways marked complete while still having incomplete sections. The government loves announcing projects because announcements get media coverage, look like progress, and cost nothing. Actual delivery is hard, takes years, and often fails. 3. The land acquisition. Nightmare. Here's the thing people don't understand about infrastructure in India. You can't build anything without land, and acquiring land in India is nearly impossible. India passed the Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in Land Acquisition Act in 2013. The intention was good: prevent farmers from being cheated, ensure fair compensation, require consent. The reality, it made infrastructure projects almost impossible. The law requires consent from 70 to 80% of landowners depending on the project type. It requires social impact assessments. It mandates compensation at 2 to 4 times the market rate. It requires jobs or compensation for affected families. Sounds fair, right? Here's the problem. India has extremely fragmented land ownership. A single kilometer of highway might cross land owned by hundreds of different people. Getting 70% consent means negotiating with dozens or hundreds of individual landowners. And here's what happens. A few landowners hold out, demanding astronomical compensation because they know the project can't proceed without them. It becomes extortion by holdout, or families fight over who owns the land. India's land records are notoriously inaccurate. Multiple people might claim ownership of the same plot. The project gets stuck in court while ownership is determined, or one family member agrees, another refuses. Land ownership in India is often shared among extended families. Getting everyone to agree is like herding cats. The result, land acquisition for major projects takes 3 to 7 years on average. Some projects have been stuck in land acquisition for over a decade. The Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail has acquired only about 70% of required land after 9 years of trying. The remaining 30% is stuck in disputes, litigation, or holdouts demanding higher compensation. The Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor has faced land acquisition problems for 15 years. Farmers refuse to sell. Others demand prices the project can't afford. And it's not just farmers. In urban areas, you have slum dwellers, unauthorized constructions, religious structures, and commercial properties. Each requires different legal processes for acquisition. Here's a specific example: the Mumbai Metro Line 3. It's a 33-kilometer underground metro line. Construction started in 2016. It was supposed to open in 2021. One section requires acquiring a small plot occupied by a public garden. Environmental activists sued to stop it. The case went to the Supreme Court. It took 4 years to resolve. The entire line is delayed because of one garden. Another section required relocating a temple. Religious groups protested. Political parties got involved. It became a religious political issue. Years of delay. The irony is brutal. India desperately needs infrastructure, but India's laws and social complexity make building infrastructure nearly impossible. Compare this to China. When China wants to build a highway, the government acquires the land, pays compensation set by the government, and construction starts within months. People who refuse are removed by force if necessary. It's authoritarian, it's unfair, but it works for infrastructure. India wants to be a democracy with rule of law, property rights, and environmental protection. That's admirable. But it also means infrastructure takes 5 to 10 times longer to build than in China. There's no easy solution. You either trample on rights to build fast, or you respect rights and build slowly. India chose the latter. The cost is development that doesn't happen. 4. The corruption tax. Let's talk about what nobody wants to admit publicly. Corruption adds 20 to 40% to the cost of infrastructure in India. This isn't speculation. Studies by Transparency International and the World Bank consistently estimate that 20 to 40% of infrastructure spending is lost to corruption, kickbacks, and inefficiency. What does this mean in practice? A road that should cost 100 crore rupees to build actually costs 140 crore because contractor pays 10% kickback to officials for winning the bid, contractor uses substandard materials to recover the kickback cost, inspector is bribed to approve substandard work, project gets inflated bills for materials never delivered, ghost workers are added to payroll and money is siphoned. The road gets built, but it's poor quality. Within 2 years, potholes appear. Within 5 years, major repairs are needed. Here's a real example. The National Highway Development Project, started in the 1990s, still ongoing. Multiple investigations have found contractors using 30% less bitumen than specified, road thickness 20% less than required, drainage systems never built but claimed as complete, quality testing reports falsified. These roads deteriorate rapidly. Money is then spent on maintenance and repairs. The same contractors get rehired to fix the roads they built poorly in the first place. It's a perfect scam. Build bad infrastructure, collect government money, get paid again to repair it, repeat. Another example, the Delhi Airport Metro Line, built between 2008 and 2010. By 2012, cracks appeared in pillars. Investigation revealed concrete used was weaker than specified, steel reinforcement was inadequate, construction rushed to meet deadlines, quality control was compromised. The line had to be shut down for repairs within 3 years of opening. The constructor was Spanish company Gammon India. They blamed subcontractors. Subcontractors blamed supervisors. Everyone blamed everyone. Nobody was punished. Or consider power plants. India has dozens of thermal power plants that were built at inflated costs. Investigation after investigation finds equipment purchased at prices 40 to 50% higher than international rates, kickbacks paid to politicians and bureaucrats, substandard equipment installed, inflated construction costs. These plants often run at low efficiency or breakdown. Frequently, some never achieve their rated capacity. The government knows about this. They announce anti-corruption measures. They create vigilance departments. They threaten action. But here's the systemic problem. The people responsible for oversight are part of the system. The engineer who certifies work quality might get promoted based on how many projects he completes. If he fails projects for quality issues, his career suffers. The bureaucrat approving contracts might be under pressure from politicians to award contracts to specific companies. If he refuses, he gets transferred to a bad posting. The politician allocating budgets depends on contractors for election funding. He's not going to crack down on the source of his campaign money. It's a web of incentives that encourages corruption. And it's stealing 20 to 40% of India's infrastructure budget. India spends about $1.5 trillion on infrastructure per year. If 30% is lost to corruption, that's $450 billion. Gone, wasted, stolen. For context, that's more than the GDP of Norway. Every year. 5. The regulatory quicksand. Even if you could solve land acquisition and eliminate corruption, you'd still be stuck in regulatory quicksand. Building infrastructure in India requires dozens of clearances from multiple agencies at central, state, and local levels. Each clearance can take months or years. Let's walk through what's required to build, say, a highway. 1. Project approval from National Highway Authority. 2. Environment impact assessment. 3. Forest clearance if any forest land is involved. 4. Wildlife clearance if near any wildlife corridor or sanctuary. 5. Coastal regulation zone clearance if near coast. 6. Archaeological clearance if any historical sites nearby. 7. Defense clearance if near military areas. 8. Airport clearance if near airports. 9. Railway clearance if crossing railway lines. 10. State government approvals. 11. Local municipal approvals. 12. Pollution Control Board clearance. 13. Water usage clearance. 14. Power connection clearance. Each of these involves submitting detailed reports, waiting for review, responding to queries, attending hearings, and finally getting approval. And here's the catch. These agencies don't coordinate. Each operates independently. So even if 13 agencies approve, the 14th can block the entire project. The environment clearance process deserves special mention. Environmental impact assessments in India take 6 to 12 months on average. In some cases, years. The process involves conducting environmental surveys, public hearings, expert committee review, state-level clearance, central-level clearance. At any point, environmental groups can challenge the clearance in court. These cases can take years to resolve. Is environmental protection important? Absolutely. Should projects be environmentally sustainable? Of course. But here's the problem. The process is used as a tool for extortion or political obstruction. Example, environmental clearance might be held up until the developer pays speed money, or a political opponent uses environmental concerns to block a project in a rival's constituency, or local activists who may have legitimate concerns use the legal process to delay projects indefinitely. Their right to challenge is important, but the cost is that projects don't get built. India has about 1,000 infrastructure projects worth over $100 billion stuck in various regulatory clearances right now. These are approved projects with allocated budgets. They're just waiting for one more clearance. Meanwhile, the money is allocated but not spent. The budget lapses. Next year, the process starts again. This creates absurd situations. India allocates $1 billion for a highway. The money is there. The contractor is ready. But because forest clearance is pending, construction can't start. The budget year ends. The money goes back to the treasury unspent. Next year, the highway is rebudgeted. But now it needs fresh approvals because the old ones expired. The cycle repeats. There are highways in India that have been rebudgeted 5 times because they can't start construction. The clearances keep expiring and need renewal. The government has tried to fix this. They created single-window clearances. They set time limits for approvals. They digitized applications. But the fundamental problem remains: multiple agencies with veto power, no coordination, and incentives to delay rather than approve. 6. The debt trap of infrastructure. Let's talk about money. Specifically, who's paying for all this infrastructure and what happens when the bills come due. India's infrastructure spending comes from 3 sources. 1. Government budget allocations. 2. Debt by government-owned companies. 3. Private sector investment. Let's start with government companies. India has several: National Highway Authority of India, Airport Authority of India, Indian Railways, state-level road development corporations, urban development authorities. These entities borrow money to build infrastructure. The loans are technically not government debt, but they're implicitly government guaranteed. If these entities can't repay, the government has to step in. How much have they borrowed? Rough estimates put it at over 10 trillion rupees, about $120 billion. This is off-balance sheet government debt. Now here's the problem. Many infrastructure projects don't generate enough revenue to service the debt. Highways are supposed to make money from tolls, but many Indian highways have toll collection that doesn't cover debt servicing, let alone maintenance. Why? Traffic volumes are lower than projected, or toll evasion is high, or political pressure forces toll exemptions for local vehicles. Airports were supposed to be profitable. Some are: Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. But many smaller airports lose money. They were built for prestige or political reasons, not economic viability. Indian Railways is chronically unprofitable. It carries 1 billion passengers annually but loses money because passenger fares are kept artificially low for political reasons. Freight subsidizes passengers. Railway debt keeps growing, so these entities keep borrowing more to service old debt and fund new projects. It's a debt spiral. The government guarantees some of this debt. When the entities can't pay, the government has to. This happened with Air India, which accumulated massive debt and had to be bailed out before being privatized. It's happening with many state electricity boards, which have accumulated over 5 trillion rupees in debt because they sell electricity below cost due to political subsidies. Private sector investment in infrastructure has disappointed. In the early 2000s, India tried public-private partnerships, PPPs. Private companies would build infrastructure, collect tolls or fees, and make profits. Many of these failed. Traffic projections were wrong, projects were delayed, debt burdens became unsustainable. Several major infrastructure companies went bankrupt: IL&FS, Lanco, JP. They left behind incomplete projects and massive debt. Banks that lent to these projects now have bad loans. The amount of stressed infrastructure loans in India's banking system is estimated at 2 to 3 trillion rupees. The government had to set up mechanisms to rescue these projects. It created the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund to take over distressed projects. But this just shifts the problem. Instead of private sector debt, it becomes quasi-government debt. Here's the fundamental problem. India is borrowing to build infrastructure that often doesn't generate enough economic returns to justify the borrowing. If you borrow $100 billion at 8% interest, you need to generate $8 billion in annual returns just to service the interest. But if the infrastructure you build only generates $4 billion in economic value, you're in trouble. India's infrastructure debt is growing faster than GDP. That's unsustainable. At some point, debt servicing will crowd out new infrastructure spending. We're already seeing signs of this. Infrastructure budgets are increasingly going to debt servicing rather than new projects. 7. The China comparison that hurts. Let's address the elephant in the room. China built world-class infrastructure in 20 years. Why can't India? In 1990, China and India had similar infrastructure. Both had poor roads, limited railways, basic ports. By 2010, China had transformed completely. High-speed rail connecting major cities, modern airports everywhere, 6-lane highways across the country, state-of-the-art ports. India by 2010 had improved somewhat but remained far behind. Today, the gap is enormous. China has 42,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. India has 0. China has 169,000 kilometers of expressways. India has about 2,000 kilometers. Why the difference? First, speed of execution. China can build a 1,000-kilometer high-speed rail line in 3 to 5 years. In India, it would take 15 to 20 years if it happens at all. Second, land acquisition. China acquires land quickly and forcibly if needed. India can take 10 years just for land acquisition. Third, scale. China invests about 8% of GDP in infrastructure annually. India invests about 4 to 5%. Fourth, consistency. China's infrastructure push has been consistent for 30 years. India's efforts are sporadic, changing with governments. But here's what's important. China's model isn't replicable in India. China's infrastructure was built by authoritarian decree. The government decided, the government built, opposition was crushed. India is a democracy. You can't bulldoze farmers' land without legal process. You can't silence environmental concerns. You can't ignore local opposition. China also has a different financial structure. China's local governments can borrow massively from state banks. When they can't repay, the central government absorbs the debt. India's states have borrowing limits. Banks are more cautious. The central government can't absorb unlimited state debt. China's infrastructure boom also left behind enormous debt. Hidden local government debt in China is estimated at 60 to 70% of GDP. They're dealing with that burden now. India can't afford that much debt. India's credit rating is lower than China's. Excessive borrowing would trigger a debt crisis. So while everyone points to China and asks why India can't do the same, the honest answer is India can't. India's political system, legal framework, and financial constraints make Chinese-style infrastructure impossible. That's not necessarily bad. Democratic rights are valuable. Environmental protection matters. Financial prudence is important. But it means India will build infrastructure slowly. Very slowly. Maybe too slowly. 8. Why throwing money doesn't work. The government's response to infrastructure problems is usually allocate more money, and they do allocate more money every year, but spending doesn't increase proportionally. Here's a startling statistic. In the 2022-2023 budget year, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways was allocated 2 trillion rupees. They spent 1.6 trillion. That's 400 billion rupees left unspent. The Ministry of Railways was allocated 2.4 trillion rupees. They spent 2.2 trillion. Across infrastructure ministries, 10 to 20% of allocated budgets go unspent every year. Why? Because money isn't the constraint. Execution capacity is the constraint. You can't just throw money at infrastructure and expect roads to appear. You need detailed planning and surveys, land acquisition, clearances, contractor capacity, quality supervision, project management. India is weak in all these areas. Adding more money doesn't fix these bottlenecks. It's like trying to drink water through a straw by pouring more water into the glass. The straw is the constraint, not the water. India's contractors have limited capacity. There are only so many qualified construction companies. Adding more projects just spreads them thinner, reducing quality. India's bureaucracy has limited bandwidth. There are only so many engineers and supervisors. More projects mean less oversight per project. India's legal system is overloaded. More projects mean more clearances, more litigation, more delays. The result, money allocated but not spent, or spent but wasted, or spent on poor quality construction that needs repair within years. The government celebrates budget announcements, but budget allocation doesn't equal actual infrastructure. In fact, there's evidence that rapid budget increases led to worse outcomes. Why? Because sudden large allocations create pressure to spend quickly. Spending quickly means cutting corners, poor planning, and inadequate supervision. India's best infrastructure projects were often smaller, well-planned projects with adequate time. The worst were mega projects announced with fanfare and rushed to meet political deadlines. 9. The opportunity cost of failed infrastructure. Let's talk about what India is losing by not fixing infrastructure. Foreign companies looking to manufacture in India face infrastructure constraints. Ports are slow, roads are bad, power is unreliable. They go to Vietnam or Bangladesh instead. India wants to become a manufacturing hub as companies diversify away from China. But manufacturers need reliable infrastructure. Many potential investments don't happen because infrastructure isn't there. The cost, jobs not created, growth not achieved. India's farmers can't get produce to market efficiently. A third of fruits and vegetables rot before reaching consumers because of lack of cold storage and bad roads. That's food wasted, farmer income lost, consumer prices higher. India's cities are choking on traffic. The average speed in Bangalore during peak hours is 8 kilometers per hour. Mumbai is barely better. Hours wasted in traffic are hours not spent productively. Water scarcity is forcing Indian cities to truck in water or restrict supply. Tech companies in Bangalore face water rationing. This limits growth. Poor infrastructure makes logistics expensive. It costs more to move goods within India than to ship them internationally. This makes Indian manufacturers less competitive. All of these are opportunity costs. Economic growth that doesn't happen. Prosperity that's not achieved. Potential that's wasted. Studies estimate India's GDP could be 15 to 20% higher with proper infrastructure. On a $3.7 trillion economy, that's $550 to $740 billion in lost annual output. For reference, that's roughly the size of Switzerland's entire economy. Just gone. Missing. Because the infrastructure isn't there. 10. Final thoughts. Can India escape the trap? So after all this, can India fix its infrastructure problem? The honest answer is slowly, painfully, over decades. India can't do a China-style infrastructure blitz. The political and legal system won't allow it. India can't dramatically increase spending without risking a debt crisis. India can't eliminate corruption quickly. It's too embedded in the system. India can't speed up land acquisition without compromising democratic rights. What India can do: improve project planning to reduce cost overruns, invest in institutional capacity, more engineers, better training, use technology to improve transparency and reduce corruption, prioritize projects with highest economic returns, monetize existing infrastructure to fund new projects, gradually reform land acquisition laws to balance rights and development, build consensus for long-term infrastructure vision beyond political cycles. But all of this is slow. India's infrastructure will improve gradually over 20 to 30 years, not 5 to 10. The $5 trillion economy dream? It's not going to happen by 2025 or 2027 or even 2030. Maybe by 2035 if everything goes right. India's growth will be constrained by infrastructure for the foreseeable future. That's not a political statement. It's a mathematical reality. The infrastructure trap is real, and India is stuck in it. Can India grow despite poor infrastructure? Yes, to some extent. Services like IT and business process outsourcing don't need great physical infrastructure. Digital economy can grow with just internet, but to become a manufacturing powerhouse, to create mass employment, to reach developed country status, India needs infrastructure, and that infrastructure isn't coming fast enough. The tragedy is that everyone knows this. The government knows it. Business knows it. Citizens know it. But knowing the problem and fixing it are different things. India is trapped between democratic constraints that slow development and authoritarian efficiency that India rightly rejects. There's no easy way out. The $5 trillion dream isn't dead. It's just postponed by a decade or two, or 3. Thanks for watching. If you want to understand how infrastructure shapes economic destiny, hit that subscribe button. Next video: how Vietnam is quietly eating India's lunch by building infrastructure faster and attracting manufacturers leaving China. Drop a comment. Do you think India can fix its infrastructure in your lifetime, or is this a problem that will persist for generations? I read everyone. And if this video changed how you think about infrastructure and development, smash that like button. Understanding why some countries can build and others can't is key to understanding global economics. See you in the next one. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe appreciate whatever functional infrastructure you have, because building it is harder than it looks.